And Richard,
do you want me to stand up or should I sit down? All right, I'll stand up. It means I can gesticulate more. Okay, look, look, thanks very much for inviting me here today, and I'm going to echo much of what Jake has said, but hopefully give you a bit of a London perspective from Boris Johnson's perspective. The first thing to say is really to just note, boring start statistic, I'm afraid, but just to note the growth in the private rental sector in London. It's doubled over the last decade. It's now a larger component of the social rent, which kind of puts into context what's been discussed here in terms of the importance of the housing offer which the private rented sector delivers. The two groups of comments I want to make are under two headings. The first is institutional investment, which is a topic Jake touched on, and the second is private landlords. On the first, much has been said about trying to stimulate institutional investment into the private rental sector. The reality is we need more money going into housing to help deliver more homes. It shouldn't just be reliant on public money. Public funding is a component, but it's also important to unlock private investment, and institutional investment is an obvious starting point. Given the other investment opportunities which are out there for pension funds and others, the residential sector, the private rental sector, could offer a decent yield. In London, you're looking in excess of 5% now. Could offer a great yield. So invest, because there is a demand, there is a product, and there is a return. We have attempted to unlock, and Homes and Communities Agencies, others have also attempted to unlock institutional investment. It is challenging. Some of the institutions are, bringing them to water it can be difficult, but there are ways in which to do it. And I think one of the clearest opportunities is through public land holdings. It does not fall foul of state aid rules or anything like that, which is important to avoid, but it can offer some, remove some of the risk for the institutions and get us to a tipping point. It is a good thing to do because it means we will deliver more homes for the house builders in the current climate where it's difficult to meet demand, even though the demand is there because the position lenders are in, and we're very familiar with all of this. The private rented offer is one which is there. I would add to it, however, that it would be good to look at the product and see whether there is an additional incentive that can be offered to individuals to save up a bit of money. Whether that is to save up to buy their own place, save up to do something else, I'm quite relaxed about. But we have to recognise if you're able to get on the housing market, it is actually quite a tax efficient asset class. And therefore, can we try and replicate that or offer an alternative for those who are privately renting? So I think that is a kind of challenge to the investors and to the model that would come up. Certainly within London, we're looking at portfolio sites which we could bring forward as an equity investment to try and stimulate this market. But it's not just meant for us, the government's also interested in this and there's other public landholders. So that's what I'll say on the institutional investment, other than just to add that I think the changes to stamp duty, the changes to REITs will help, and I think get landlord accreditation in the capital, whereby simply as a landlord you go through a process, you become accredited. That is something which you can tell prospective tenants that you are. It means that you can keep up with any changes. You know what's happening. You know what your rights are, what your responsibilities are. It's a straightforward system. There are also attached to it in many areas incentives. And so those incentives, for example, can include discount on licensing. Those incentives can include, possibly around installation and loft installation, all that, free. It can also, it could include something around LHA, but I don't leave that there. And certainly, given that under new legislation, boroughs will shortly have the ability to discharge duty into the private rental sector. We would certainly hope that would be to accredited landlords. I think what we need, though, is a kind of greater consumer recognition of it, because in the capital we've doubled the number of accredited landlords, but we need greater consumer recognition of it. So people go out and say, hey, this landlord's accredited, and that's kind of influences consumer behaviour. And certainly we're working hard with the NLA, with letting agents as well, given that over half the properties in the capital are managed by letting agents or landlords, to come up with this kind of London rental badge, or whatever we call it, which just means that the plethora of schemes which are out there all fall under one badge, and everyone knows what it means. And as I say, I think there are incentives in there for the landlords, as well as helping the tenants to understand what their rights and responsibilities are as well under the system. So within the capital, we think that's sufficient, and that's the direction in which we're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Finally.